If you've been following any bit of news, you know that the California fires has been on the news now for I think, almost 2 weeks. And as you expect, or as you should suspect, Gavin Newsom, the black chick mayor, Karen, and Democrats in general are doing everything possible to blame everyone else but themselves. Because, again, this is a situation, you're talking about investigating people to try to put cases on them like they did Trump and his allies. Well, this is yet another prime example of a criminal negligence which would deserve an investigation and people put behind bars. But that's not even going to be a conversation. And in fact, they're trying to blame the fires themselves as they're happening on everyone else but themselves. Obviously, Gavin Newsom with his multiple posts on Twitter, instead of being busy, he's wanting to post about, oh, they're spreading fake news and misinformation here. Oh, Trump dared to condemn me. And then you got Black Mirror supporters saying that people are criticizing her because of her race and her gender, and they're even trying to throw the ageism thing into the equation. And this is what you're always going to get with these people. And this is what liberals vote for. I mean, that's the whole crust of identity politics, is to put people in positions of power so they can't be criticized based on race, based on gender, based on sexuality. Because they know, despite how much they love to condemn America as this bigoted country, they know, unfortunately, most Americans are still handicapped by not wanting to be viewed or seen or called a bigot. And that's not just libtards, that's so called conservatives as well. Now, thankfully, it seems people are pulling themselves more and more out of that idiotic woke coma, dare I say, because it's a thing that's been getting people killed for not just the last few years since Trump's been a thing in politics, but it's been getting people killed for decades. The main reason why people push criminal justice reform is based on identity politics because they didn't like the fact that mass incarceration was mostly affecting blacks and browns, not gathering to think, well, maybe it's mostly affecting that particular demographic because that's the ones most responsible for those crimes, and thus they get incarcerated accordingly. And then you have, the DEI that's infected major institutions, serious, important positions of powers like the black mayor and the DAs and the governors, attorney generals, judges, and in the fire department. And yes, the beneficiaries of DEI just so happen to be Negroes, females, and people of the alphabet sex cult, aka LGBTQ. And so people can get upset all they want about DEI seemingly always being picking on this particular demographic. Well, the standards are lowered for those particular demographics, and that's why DEI need to be killed. Because it's actually getting people killed. Now, again, these libtards, not too long ago, they had the opportunity to recall Gavin Newsom. You know, they had a black man based on merit in Larry Elder who they could have selected to be their governor. To bring back in the whole conversation about identity politics. Because the fact that they didn't pick Larry Elder and instead they tried to defame him, call him the black face of white supremacy, the white woman who wore a gorilla mask threw an egg on him or at him, and nothing was ever done about that. There was no outrage about that. And that is just a perfect example that the identity politics isn't something that is solely bad for so-called white folks, because Larry Elder is a prime example of someone who's not white, but because he has conservative values, he's a colored person with conservative values, they pretty much throw him under that category of white. And again, when they're saying white, they mean it as an insult. And so again, it's just a prime example that this thing negatively affects all demographics of people. Because again, look at all of the just again criminal negligence that was involved with this thing. Again, you hire diversity hires who are incompetent, and then in your effort to fight the environment, you leave the environment at risk of burning by not cleaning out the forest and not having enough water provided to fight known locations for wildfires. It's not like it's in a different state where you don't expect wildfires. You expect it here, same way you expect tornadoes in Oklahoma. And so you should have resources there in abundance to deal with those things accordingly. But again, not only did they not have those things along with the diversity hires, but they also fired people during COVID because they didn't want to take the vaccine. And guess what? Democrat Californians supported people getting fired for not taking the vax because they saw it as killing grandma. And now look at these dumbasses. You had quality firefighters get fired and then others not get hired based on the identity politics that Democrat Californians especially likes to push. And so again, when people wonder why certain people don't have any sympathy for them, well, that's why. These people have literally aggressively pushed for what they are receiving now. And again, they had the opportunity in 2021 to recall this guy, and they didn't do it. So again, why liberals didn't recall him? Because they're liberals. That's why. And even though you see some people criticizing him now, I mean, again, they don't deserve a pat on the back because this is what it takes. It takes apocalyptic destruction before you finally wake up about something. I'm sorry, I don't want to be in the same country, let alone the same state, with people who need things to get that extreme before they get a clue. And quite frankly, I believe if they held an election again and they had the choice between Gavin Newsom and Larry Elder, for example, once again, they would re-elect Gavin Newsom again. Because again, there's just been too much history that have shown these people will repeatedly burn themselves just so they can get some sort of symbolic socio-political victory. They pick the diversity person, or they pick the people that's on their libtarded team. I've said it before. Liberals in general are obliviously suicidal. And this is just another prime example of it. Everything that is happening now is what California Democrats not just asked for, but they aggressively demanded. Because, again, the people within this region of the country are some of the main ones that have been pushing heavily, calling other people fascists and Nazis and all kinds of other bigotry labels solely for disagreeing with their commie Marxist socialist politics. And so now, because of this tragedy, people are supposed to care about these adult Democrats that have been supporting this nonsense. I mean, you can't forget they supported arson during the BLM and George Floyd riots in 2018, 2020. So again, I mean, that shows you they've supported destruction before. But this one, being on a apocalyptic level, is the only reason why they're now having some slight criticisms. But you can guarantee they're going to be, and many are already back on the same train of blaming anybody but themselves and the people who they voted for and supported.